live on the island. I have the privilege
Assemblyman
of serving-
Graff. Oh, I'm sorry.
I live actually in Harlem, and I represent the 30th Senatorial District, but I have the privilege of serving on the Committee on Corporations and Authorities as the ranking member. And, but in that regard, you know, we're very interested in the public authorities and how they are of value in terms of public needs and public services. And so this privatization model that we're now discussing raises some concerns from that point of view. And so I didn't read the Long Island newspaper, but I do read the Daily News, and I had the opportunity to read an op-ed about this particular matter. You may be aware of it, by Andrew Friedman and Maya Gelman. Mr. Friedman is an executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy, and Ms. Gelman is an energy policy consultant and advocate for energy democracy in New York City. And I just want to read a quick quote and get your response. And they basically say, it's true, LIPA is a mess. It is saddled with debt that comes from bailing out shareholders from the last failed effort to privatize the utility, then LILCO. But the bank-like private utilities to whom LIPA would be sold are not to be trusted. They have a long record of lining their pockets at the expense of New Yorkers. How do you respond to that?
Well, first I'd actually like to respond to that op-ed, because what was disconcerting about it was one of the earlier sentences in it, which you didn't mention, but it basically said that the Moreland Commission came out with its interim report after holding one hearing. The Moreland Commission has subpoena power. We subpoenaed all the utilities. We subpoenaed LIPA and National Grid. We interviewed external stakeholders. We interviewed emergency managers. We interviewed managers of critical infrastructure and many other players in the utility industry. We interviewed LIPA and National Grid low to mid-level employees, and we had 3 hearings. One of them was a hearing where we actually brought National Grid and LIPA executives before us. So before that group should put an op-ed in the Daily News commenting on our report, they can disagree with the substance, but don't go after us on the process, and don't make up the process and change what the process was just so it makes their argument sound stronger. So right away I take umbrage with the op-ed from the beginning, because they didn't read the report. Because if they read the report and followed all of the, followed our website and all the testimony that we have up there, they would have realized all the effort that actually went into the interim report. So now that I said that, we have 6 utilities in New York State that are independently owned and are privately operated. And most of the utilities in the United States are private companies. They provide power, and they do it twofold. One is they provide power, I mean, they're publicly traded, and yes, what a publicly traded company's responsibility is to make sure that their shareholders are benefited from that. But the balance that you have with a utility is that you have a strong PSC, because the utility is taking care of their shareholders because they're publicly traded, but you have a strong PSC that makes sure that the utility is also doing what it needs to do for the particular ratepayer as well. And you have 6 utilities in New York State, including Con Ed, which serves Harlem, and several others as well, that are already doing this, and they're doing it fine, and they didn't have the catastrophe that happened on Long Island, and you also have it in other states. So taking that broad-based statement that a publicly traded company takes care of its shareholders, yes, we are in New York State. New York State has Wall Street. We benefit from publicly traded companies, but if a publicly traded company is a utility that's going to be providing service to ratepayers, the state of New York, which is before me right now, has a responsibility to make sure it has a strong PSC to regulate that company, to make sure it's doing what it needs to do for the ratepayer, and that's what the balance is.
So, thank you very much. Let me just be clear. I'm not sure we're reading the same article, because the one that I'm referencing points out that, if I may quote, Governor Cuomo's historic Moreland Commission will hold only a few hearings, but big changes are in the offing. So they don't say one hearing. They mentioned that there will be a few. I just wanted for the record, in case we have different stories. we're
Understood,
reading.
but there's a lot of other work, then I misunderstood that, but there's a lot of other work that we did just, instead of just hearings as well, that was behind the scene that led to what our findings were. It
Okay.
was an intense several months of an investigation that we did.